I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Vietnam Veterans News Podcast. News of interest about Vietnam veterans from a Vietnam veteran. Now, here's your host, Mac Payne.
This is Mac Payne here with episode 1837 of the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast. News about the Vietnam War and the brave veterans who served there, as told to you by yours truly, a Vietnam veteran. In this episode, we're going to have a little bit of excitement. Excitement coming from the stories of the brave pilots who participated in Sandy missions over in Vietnam. If you are not familiar with the term Sandy, Sandy refers to a Douglas A-1 Skyraider aircraft and some large Air Force HH-3C rescue helicopters. They did some amazing things over there that resulted in the rescue of many downed American flyers, and many of those Sandy crew members also paid with the ultimate sacrifice. I'm going to share a story with you that appeared on the Aviation Geek Club blog. The title of the story is Bringing Them Home, Bat-21 and the Other Big CSAR Operations of the Vietnam War. This story was written and submitted by Dario Leone. He is the pride of Merrimack College up there in Andover, Massachusetts. He is an aviation, defense, and military writer. He founded this blog and he is the editor. It is one of the world's most read military aviation blogs. Dario is an excellent writer. That's why I want to share his story with you, because it's so exciting. For a long time, I did not even know what Sandy was. On my second tour, we'd be flying missions out there, and they would talk about bringing in Sandy to do something. Usually, I heard those on CCN missions, where they were going to pick up downed airmen in places I can't divulge. It was exciting. They were some brave people. This all happened on my second tour. On my first tour in Vietnam, I spent most of my time hiking around the hills and dells in the Central Highlands south of Pleiku, looking for an elusive enemy. We very seldom found hide nor hair of them. Usually you did not find them. They would find you. Also spent a good deal of time riding up and down Highway 1 and Highway 19, driving through those ambushes, watching those quad 50 cals cut up the bad guys. On my second tour in Vietnam, I had the distinct privilege of flying Cobra gunships with the 101st Airborne Division out of Hue Phu Bai, up north in I Corps. More than once, we would go out on missions that included Sandy packages. A Sandy package was the big helicopter and the propeller-driven World War II look-alike fighters. They were some bad aircraft, if you were an NVA member, that is. There's several stories in here that Dario talks about. I need to warn you up front. They are exciting. So buckle your seatbelts, sit back, turn off all your distractions, put away your cell phone, and tell all the noisy people in the room to shut up because you've got something important to listen to. Without any further ado, let's take a look at Dario Leone's story about rescue missions. Dateline, the Aviation Geek Club website. Many shot-down pilots recall that the sound of a Sandy overhead lifted their spirits in desperate situations. During the Vietnam War, Combat Search and Rescue, better known as CSAR, personnel had a significant impact and lived up to their motto, that others may live. They saved a total of 4,120 people, including 2,780 in combat situations. Their individual achievements earned them 2 Medals of Honor, 38 Air Force Crosses, and numerous other awards. However, the cost was high as 71 U.S. rescue personnel were killed and 45 aircraft destroyed during the war. As explained by Peter E. Davis in his book Ho Chi Minh Trail 1964 to 1973, SAR attempts could become major operations involving numerous aircraft over several days. On an armed reconnaissance mission by a stormy FAC flight, including F-4D Phantoms, IIs, over southern Laos on January the 17th, 1969, the crew attacked a 37mm anti-aircraft site. One F-4D was hit, crashing in flames. The backseat WSO managed to eject and triggered a rescue effort that involved 284 aircraft. From the first flight of Sandy A-1Hs, one was shot down, and an HH-53B helicopter, Jolly Green 67, moved in to rescue its pilot, Lieutenant Colonel Lurie Morris, commander of the 602nd SOS, and search for the F-4D crewman. It was badly damaged and crash-landed near Saipan. A note here. I have been to Saipan. I've seen it close up and low from the back seat of a Cobra gunship, and it was not a friendly-looking area. I pity any pilot that was shot down and landed anywhere near Saipan. Continuing. A second HH-53B Jolly Green 70 moved in to rescue its crew and Morris, while strike aircraft destroyed the Jolly Green 67 to prevent its capture. Right here, I must say something. Whenever we had to go out and destroy a downed helicopter, it was wonderful. Usually you could see the aircraft, and it gave you something specific to shoot at. Normally our targets would be something like this. They would say, shoot 100 yards north of the green smoke. We would go in and shoot 100 yards north of the green smoke into the triple canopy jungle and never really see anything. I remember one time in particular, a Huey had gone down near Firebase, Tennessee, not too far from the Ashaw Valley, and they had done everything they could to get it out, but to no avail. Finally, they said, forget it. We're just going to destroy it in place, and our section was called upon to do the mission. I was flying as the wingman on this particular day. I knew where that helicopter was. We'd been out there before. As we're flying in there, the commander, somewhere up in the sky, started describing it to us, and I broke in and said, don't worry about it. I know where it is. We dove in on that helicopter, who I must say was not as good of a rocket shooter as I was. Went in, fired a few rounds, missed it. Didn't even get hardly close to it. And then I said, oh, this is going to be good. I rolled in there and laid down about 10 pair right on top of it. Destroyed it beyond recognition. The section leader had pulled up and was going to go around and make another pass. And the mission commander, unseen up in the helicopter above, said, okay, guys, you don't need to make another pass. That number 2 aircraft went in there and destroyed it totally. When we got back, the section leader was just a little embarrassed, and I showed him up. He did not know that for months I had been going out every day when we had available time and taking advantage of something called a free fire zone. We would go out there and shoot and shoot and shoot all day long, while the other guys on their days off were sitting back in our little lounge area drinking beer. But not me. I was out there practicing. And on that one particular day, when we destroyed that helicopter, the training paid off, and it was wonderful. I'll make a statement right now and put it up against anybody. And when I left Vietnam, I was the best rocket shooter there had ever been. Pardon me, but I just had to put that in. Let's get on with Dario's story. Continuing with where he's describing how they were going out to rescue the crew of a Jolly Green and an aircraft. The following day, as the search for the F-4 pilot continued, another Sandy and its pilot, Captain Robert Cody, was lost to intense 37mm fire. An O2A assessing damage to trucks from the previous night was hit in the same area, and the rescue force was diverted to pick up its crew while Sandys kept the enemy away with tear gas. I'm assuming Captain Cody and the rest were rescued. Dario moves on to another story. One of the biggest SAR operations took place in one of the most heavily defended areas of the Ho Chi Minh Trail near Ban Phiang Nop in southern Laos to recover a 12th TFWF-4C crew, Boxcar 22. After a 37mm hit, the crew ejected and a 51-hour rescue attempt involving 366 sorties, 171 by the A-1 Sandys, began on December the 5th, 1969. That almost sounds like a big-time 4th of July celebration. On the first day, 7 Nhut Phantom helicopters attempted a recovery, one of them getting its tail boom stuck in a tree. All were driven away by ground fire, and 47 A-1 sorties were flown around the clock to suppress gunfire from around 100 sources. That's what you call a target-rich environment. When we were flying the Cobra gunships, being young and adventurous, we loved running into target-rich environments, especially when they were shooting those 51 caliber machine guns with the red tracers that looked like flying needles going by the cockpit. That gave us an excellent target to shoot at. Continuing with the story. The F-4C pilot, Captain Ben Danielson, was killed by NVA troops, but his backseater, First Lieutenant Woody Bergeron, was finally snatched by an HH-53 from behind a heavy smoke screen after 2 nights on the ground or immersed in a river under foliage. Did you get that? Lieutenant Bergeron was either hiding in the bushes or in the creek all night long. That must have been tough. Continuing. A parajumper was killed, and 5 A-1s and 12 other aircraft received severe damage. The A-1 Sandy force of 24 aircraft returned to Nakhon Phanom en masse, and 4,000 people at the base turned out to greet the HH-53 containing Bergeron. It was a graphic demonstration of the U.S. objective of protecting its own men at great cost. That knowledge was undoubtedly supported 2 airmen as they undertook extraordinary risky missions over Laos and Vietnam. Many shot-down pilots recall that the sound of a Sandy overhead lifted their spirits in desperate situations. I guess it did. Another extraordinary example of the determination of SAR crews occurred on April 2, 1972, when EB-66C 54-0466 BAT-21, providing ECM protection for an arc light attack, was shot down by an SA-2 near the DMZ. Only one crew member, 53-year-old navigator Lieutenant Colonel Gene Hamilton, ejected, landing close to an NVA troop concentration. The largest SAR operation of the war was mounted over the following 11 days, dramatized in the movie Bat-21, starring Gene Hackman as Hamilton. An HC-130 Kingbird flying over the site was damaged by another SA-2, but a Da Nang-based O2A FAC, Lieutenant Colonel Bill Jankowski, contacted Hamilton as he parachuted down. His position was later confirmed by Captain Gary Ferenchak in a paved nail OV-10A. Sandy A-1s moved in, strafing NVA troops within 300 feet of Hamilton's position. 4 U.S. Army helicopters attempted a rescue, but 2 were shot down. Several FACs remained on station the next day. One of them, OV-10A Nail 38, being shot down by an SA-2. One of them, OV-10A Nail 38, being shot down by an SA-2. Over the following 11 days, 90 strike sorties were flown daily to protect Hamilton, and another OV-10A Covey 282 was lost. On April the 6th, in a final rescue effort, a 37th ARRS HH-53C was hit by machine gun fire, and all its occupants were killed when it crashed. Hamilton was eventually able to reach a riverbank where he was rescued by a Special Forces SEAL team, which had also recovered naval pilot First Lieutenant Mark Clark. SEAL team leader Lieutenant Tom Norris was awarded the Medal of Honor for his rescue effort. That operation was so good, they made a movie out of it, starring none other than Gene Hackman. The title of the movie was Bat 21. Why don't you go over to Netflix and check it out? I think it'd be interesting. I'd also encourage you to go over to the podcast website, VietnamVeteranNews.com. Check out episode 1837, and there you will see a picture of then 53-year-old Gene Hamilton, who was rescued after 11 days of evading the NVA. One part of Colonel Hamilton's story is extremely exciting to me. It said that as he parachuted down very close to an NVA position, Sandy A-1s moved in and strafed NVA troops who were within 300 feet of Hamilton's position. I can tell you right now, from the opinion of a former Cobra gunship pilot, finding enemy troops in the open, where you can see them right there in front of you. They're not hidden in the trees. They're right out there in the wide open spaces, and you can just start blowing the H out of them is one of the ultimate experiences, and it is not one that comes to you very often. I know exactly how those Sandy pilots felt as they were rolling in on those troops in the open. After you do something like that, you could die and go to heaven. Those are the stories of the brave SAR crewmen who went out and rescued a lot of American personnel in the Vietnam War. Just like the Air America pilots, the CSAR personnel are another group that we should never forget for the brave things that they did during the Vietnam War. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. This is Mac Payne closing out episode 1837 of the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. You are cordially invited to return again soon and often to listen to more of these stories coming your way on this podcast, the Vietnam Veteran News.
How about that? Ain't that a mess?